All right, welcome in, Ethan Skolnick, starting five here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Let me move back just a little bit. We are produced here, as always, by our friend Manny Chang. We are sponsored here today by our friends over at All Pro Construction Builders. You can find them at allproconstructionbuilders.com or All Pro Construction Builders on Instagram. Hurricane season has already begun. It's actually been going on for a little while. We just don't know it because we've been getting lucky, but that may not always continue. Reach out to our friends over at All Pro Construction Builders. They are based in Dade County, but they service Monroe and Broward counties as well. They'll get you those storm windows. Mention five reasons. You get 10%. I want to say that again. Well, not 10% of the whole order. You get 10% off the whole order. So I'm going to say that again. All Pro Construction Builders, mention five reasons, you get 10% off your entire order. We also know that the housing market is very, very tight right now. Very tight. So you want to reach out to them if you can do those renovations. They can do that for you as well. So Danny and his team are at 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. Again, that's All Pro Construction Builders and allproconstructionbuilders.com. Also, our friends at Prize Picks, use the code 5FIVE. I'm on a bad run lately, but we're still at it. Use the code 5FIVE. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. People are asking me, is this legal in the state of Florida? They heard rumors. Yes, it's legal in the state of Florida. You can do this. You can't do Hard Rock Bet right now. I just want to be clear on that. It's not the other way around. So go to Prize Picks, Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, or prizepicks.com. Use the code 5FIVE. Monday night game tonight. I think Green Bay is playing. You can get in on that one as well. All right. We will talk Miami Heat as the week goes on. I promise. Five on the Floor episodes are all over the channel right now. But the Dolphins deserve a day here. And they deserve a day because, man, I understand why Heat fans, get a little spoiled. I mean, since Pat Riley came in 1995, they've been one of the two best organizations in the sport, probably, along with the Spurs. The Dolphins have not been. You go back to that same exact point, which is 1995, 1996. That's where they also made a transition from Don Shula to Jimmy Johnson. And not that it was all Jimmy's fault. Jimmy did some good things. I mean, Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas are in the Hall of Fame, right? But there wasn't a hell of a lot accomplished. And then we know the Wanstead era, and then we know all the eras that came after it, whether it was Saban or Sperano or Philbin or Gase or briefly Dan Campbell or Todd Bowles or who am I missing here? I mean, there's dozens and dozens of coaches and quarterbacks and all the rest of this stuff. And so it is just crazy to me that I was actually seeing some complaining yesterday on the timeline. Now, I was at the game. I was in the press box. I was in the press conference room with Tua and McDaniel and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, I was immersed in it, following it closely. And 500 yards basically through three quarters, that is not enough for some of you people? What am I not getting here? Did you all watch Kalen Balaj? Okay. Did you all watch Lamar? Remember Lamar Gordon? They gave up a third-round pick. Remember A.J. Feely at quarterback? Joey Harrington. A great moment in Joey Harrington's career where he went up to Detroit and beat them on Thanksgiving, and then he wanted to talk to us for 45 minutes in the press conference room afterwards because it was the highlight of his career. Did you watch John Beck not be able to get a snap? I can't remember where he was. Was it Philadelphia or Pittsburgh? One of those places. I mean, come on, people. Seriously. 500 yards through three quarters? Everybody's like, eh. And everybody's complaining about the defense. Look, the defense was not great yesterday. Okay, there still needs to be some improvement. Andrew Van Ginkel was great. Steve Ross waiting to greet him in the tunnel was something to see because now maybe they're actually going to pay him. But I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, the defense. What did they give up yesterday? Single digits. I mean, because Tua threw the one touchdown the other direction. Tua threw, same number of touchdowns that the Giants achieved. Yeah, well, more actually on offense. So I don't see how there could be any complaints. And when I'm looking at what has been accomplished here from an offensive standpoint, and this was good work by our guy Hussam Patel. Whenever there's a really good tweet on Five Reasons Sports, it's him, not me. Although I got to work with him on some spelling stuff. But here we go. The Miami Dolphins offense through 5 weeks, number one in yards per game, number one in first downs per game, number one in EPA per play. Hussam has not explained that to me, and I'm not going to ask him to. I really don't care. It just seems good. Number one in success rate. Again, I'd like to be number one success rate in something. So again, whatever that is, I'll take it. Number one in passing yards per attempt. I know what that is. To me, that's always been the single most important passing statistic. Passing yards per attempt, because it takes completion percentage into account already. What do you need completion percentage for? They're telling you basically the percentage of passes you're completing, because that goes into the formula for passing yards per attempt. I thought Tua couldn't throw downfield. Number one in passing yards. Number one in passing touchdowns. Seems important because you like to score. Number one in passing success rate. Again, no idea what that means. Sounds good. Number one in rushing EPA. Number one in rushing success rate. Number one in rushing yards. I just want to stop there, okay? This guy wouldn't run the ball last year. Number one in rushing yards. Now, you can say he's still not running the ball that much. It's just that a rookie is getting 12 yards a carry. Number one in yards per carry. Number one in rushing touchdowns. I mean, there it is. Anybody can complain about anything? Lenny, the Dolphins have been a laughing stock over the last 23 years. We finally have a team we can feel good about. Here's what you should feel good about. I'm going to give you some stuff to feel good about, okay? All right. First thing, there's only two teams in the league playing at the Dolphins level right now, and that's the 49ers and the Eagles. And they're going to see the Eagles here in a couple of weeks, okay? After a trap game, they got another one of those against the Panthers. So they're going to get to see where they're at. The Bills and the Chiefs are in that mix too. The Bills, of course, they still have this edge over the Dolphins, but they're also losing their best players every week. Their three best defensive players are now out for significant periods of time, if not the season. In White's case, it is the season. I didn't see the end result with Milano yesterday, but that certainly didn't look good. So they're losing key guys. The Dolphins are going to get key guys back. Armstead's coming back eventually, and then he'll get hurt again. But you'll get a couple of games out of him before he does. And Jalen Ramsey looks pretty good when I see him walking around. I think you're looking more like November than December, which was the original projection. So they're getting key guys back. Jalen Phillips eventually will be back in the mix too. I mean, before the season, we talked about who are the top 5 or 6 most important players in the Dolphins. And when we did those lists, Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Phillips, and Terran Armstead were universally with our group in the top 6 or 7 players. In fact, Jalen Ramsey was in like the top 2 or 3. Armstead, in terms of importance, was in the top 2 or 3. They haven't had Ramsey. They've hardly had Armstead. They've hardly had Phillips. They're 4-1. Okay, that's one thing to feel good about. Here's another thing to feel good about. They're fun. And this is more of a personal thing for me. I covered the Dolphins before I covered the Heat. That was the first team I covered down here. Okay, I mean, on a day-to-day basis. I filled in on the Heat. I filled in on the Panthers. I've been doing this a long time, but they've never been any fun. One of the reasons I switched to the Heat full time was they were fun. They had the best players in the world ended up playing for Miami, right? Shaq, LeBron, Dwayne was already here, Chris Bosh, Lonzo Mourning, etc. Players, like Shaq, who had personality, huge international stories like the Big Three. The Dolphins have been not just like mediocre to bad for like basically 2.5 decades. They've been boring play style, boring personalities, don't allow their players to speak honestly. I mean, I went through this for years and years and years. I was in those locker rooms like every single day. It wasn't fun. Like we'd be in Davie and it was like, I mean, you had good guys who weren't really allowed to speak, coaches who like you would not want to have a beer with. Like, I mean, now look what you've got. First thing, okay, the on-field product is fun as hell, right? Like it just is. It's the most fun we've seen from any team except I don't know. I guess Mahomes, when he works his magic, and then going all the way back to the greatest show on turf. I mean, that's where you're at from a excitement standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint. But it's not just that. Like, I actually enjoy listening to these guys speak. Like Tua has completely come out of his shell. Okay, like I didn't cover them a lot in his first couple seasons, but it seemed like he was guarded, and a lot of this has to do with Flores, right? But now it's like you ask Tua a question, you get First thing, a really thoughtful, introspective answer, which is great because a lot of quarterbacks give you nothing. But he's also like laughing, joking. The whole thing yesterday about like, not hearing the play and calling the wrong play. And he's enjoying this. Like you're seeing who he is. And McDaniel, I mean, is honestly, he's a gift. He's a gift. Like to the media, he's a gift. Like he is, I think in a lot of ways, he is changing the way that coaches are going to act. Word on Ramsey will be back, Jay. Look, they haven't said anything specifically, but just seeing him walk around, interact. He was kind of in a light jog yesterday. I think you're looking more like November than December. So I think we're getting close. My guess is we're probably about 3 to 4 weeks away from hearing him, being out there on the field, getting some work in, and I think to say Thanksgiving as a target, think before Thanksgiving, I think that's pretty fair. I think he's going to be there the last month of the season. Um, but McDaniel, like, it's not the whole IT thing or that he looks geeky or all that, or they should be out there with a vape or more. It's that he's him. Like, and I don't mean like he's the next genius, although he is. It's just like he's just himself. I mean, these coaches that we've had to cover with the Dolphins for years. Adam Gase, who like had a little personality, a little bit, but like nothing was ever his fault. Like the greatest strength to me of a coach is being able to be self-deprecating. If you can't blame yourself, if you can't hold yourself accountable, how can you hold anybody else accountable? Now look at Mario Cristobal by example, and that bleep show. We told our guys to keep two hands on the ball. No, we told you to learn how to count. Right? Like, how does he not take accountability in that press conference from the very beginning and nobody else? McDaniel would completely throw himself under the bus. Completely. He'd throw himself under the bus and then roll around it to make sure under it to make sure that he got completely destroyed. It's just like, I know some people are like, okay, it's too many quips, it's too cute. I'm sorry. When you have a historically great offense, you can act any way you want. And we want him to continue acting this way because again, this is a reward. It's a reward. There's one longtime beat writer. I'm not going to say who it is, but a longtime beat writer who was in the press conference room yesterday, and just after McDaniel stopped talking, was like, "Man, he's good." And like that's not something media typically says about coaches. Look, if he makes mistakes like he made, getting plays in against Buffalo in the playoffs last year and all that, of course the media will get on him. But isn't this better? Isn't this better than what we've had before? Nick Saban painting over media guys' names, and not names, but their outlets in the parking lot so that they couldn't park where they used to park, or Brian Flores staring everybody down, or Adam Gase again, not taking accountability and all that. Like, isn't this better? Joe Philbin picking up trash. Like, all of this is good. They're fun on the field. They have personality off the field. I mean, I didn't get in the locker room to talk to Tyreek yesterday, but I mean, he's like a laugh a minute. And so I just think that Dolphin fans need to just like look around and say, we're lucky for a change. We're lucky. Like we have a team that can compete. We have a team that's worth rooting for. We have a coach that's worth rooting for. And we have a quarterback who's worth rooting for. Because this is an incredible story, what Tua is doing. And I know the two picks and all the rest, and I thought one was more his fault than the other. Again, accountability. He refused to blame, hitting his hand on the helmet for one of the picks. Clearly it happened, but he's not gonna he says, my bad. My bad. You think that players don't feed off of that? This guy is one of the best stories in sports right now. If you look at where he was and led to believe that he sucked by his head coach who never wanted him, and how he's been empowered by this head coach not to lead a decent offense, not to lead a good offense, to lead a historically great offense. And for those who are going to come out here and say it's all the guys around him, those same critics, and to a certain degree, same fans, who didn't give Tua the benefit of the doubt for having Mac Hollins as his best receiver out there for some games early on and having a running game that couldn't produce 50 yards a game. Look it up, okay? those same people looking at that, take a look at what he's done with Tyreek off the field this year. Tyreek played only 46% of the snaps yesterday. Every game, Tyreek gets cramps and he's out for a few plays, right? Tua with Hill off the field this year, and I wish I could cite this tweet because I just read it. 34 of 36. I'm going to repeat that. With Hill off the field this year, 34 of 36, and he's 11 of 11 going to Waddle. So he's a Tyreek Hill merchant. I mean, come on. The guy's playing at an elite level. And yes, there will be a mistake or two, and there'll be a play or two that you're like, wait, what the hell was that? But we're at that point with him because all of the other decisions seem to be so good. The criticism of him, of McDaniel not running the ball before the half. Again, I'm going to say this about McDaniel like I did about Tua. There's always going to be one or two sequences in a game where you're like, what is he doing? Like, why, why is he getting so cute there? Same with Tua. Why is he forcing that ball into Waddle when he obviously there were two other guys open on that play because there always are. Okay. But when we're nitpicking about a play or two, and I understand that a play or two or a drive or two could cost you a playoff game and ruin everything. And then we'll go into the offseason saying, see, they still can't win a playoff game. And it's been since Lamar Smith on December 30th, 2000. I understand why Dolphin fans are conditioned to be that way. But this team right now is so overwhelming offensively that I think they can overcome those occasional brain bleeps. We'll see. So I'm just telling Dolphin fans today on a Monday morning, enjoy it. Enjoy it because you don't know if you'll see an offense like this for 25 years. People, when I was growing up during Marino's heyday, okay, I was, 11 in 1984. And you just think it's normal after a little while. Like you just watch it and you're just, well, that's what quarterbacks do. And then like 23 quarterbacks later, we arrived at Tua. And what have you gotten? You've gotten one Chad Pennington season where he really didn't throw the ball beyond 12 yards, but he was really good at what he did. Gus Frerotte was okay for a year before they tried to replace him. Dante Culpepper showed promise in like one game. And you've had Jay, who, again, I was a Jay Fiedler fan, but we all know that there was a ceiling there. And then Tannehill, the ultimate milquetoast quarterback, milquetoast offense, exception of 1 year, they were pretty good. Jay mentions that the December games still scare you, and they should. As a Dolphin fan, you're conditioned for that. But I do think that speed is going to travel. You look at their December schedule, one potential real bad weather game, but the Buffalo one they've gotten out of the way. Would have been nice to have won it, but they got it out of the way, and they got to come down here this time. Are you concerned about going up to New England? You already won up there, right? So you don't have to deal with that. And I just take a look at all of the situation in the AFC. Cincinnati tends to get better as the season goes on. We saw that yesterday. But some of the teams we thought would be really strong teams don't appear to materialize quite that way. I don't know where the Chargers are at right now. You take a look at the AFC North. The Ravens shouldn't lose a game like that to the Steelers, not in the position that both of them are in right now. So to me, it's the Bills, it's the Chiefs, and it's the Dolphins. And those are the three teams we're going to be talking about at the end. And isn't it nice to be one of those three teams instead of one of the teams that you think is going to be competing just to get that 7 spot to get in? I said before the year I thought this was an 11-6 team. Offensively, obviously, they've exceeded even my expectations. And defensively, I know people don't think it was a great performance yesterday. The Giants are obviously awful. Daniel Jones is extremely overrated. 7 sacks, though, ain't bad. And they are looking like they're starting to grasp some of the things that Fangio's doing. And again, you've got the guy who was supposed to be your number one corner, likely back here within the next probably 5 to 6 games, I would think, is reasonable. They're going to get better there. I don't think they're going to get worse. All right, everybody, enjoy the week. Dolphins content's going to be up here on the channel. We've also got 5reasonsports.com, which is up running again. So a new piece from Craig Davis is on there. Make sure you check that out, spell that one out. I'll probably do a Heat playback sometime later today as well. And also, Lewis Sung has an episode here on the Dolphins that's already up on the channel. Check out our sponsors, All Pro Construction Builders, Prize Picks. Use that code 5. Have a good day.